And it's Gordo here from Gordo's Games, and we're back for some more content this evening. Morning, afternoon. So basically, at this stage, I'm going to go you through sort of a deck profile for DC Dualforce. So you have seen that we've branched out into Marvel Snap. DC Dualforce is another one of those, and Digimon TCG is back on the track again. We have got BT13 has just come out, so you will start seeing content for that going through the set as well. So we will try and bring that out to you as much as possible. We have had a few things pop up, so content has been a bit all over the place, so apologies for that. We'll try and organise it a bit better going forward. But if you do like the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you know when this content goes live for you. And if you do want to see live in play of Marvel Snap, DC Dualforce, Digimon, feel free to follow me down on the Twitch. It's down in the description down below. The support would greatly appreciated. You'll see me streaming quite often, to be honest, a variation of games. So if you just want to start by, chill out, talks nonsense about cards, whether it be digital cards or in-person cards, let me know. You will see if you are a fan of Magic Commander. We do play that on this stream every so often. We do try to do in-person ones as well. But further and more, let's get into the profile. Go. Alright, so for the profiles on this one, so I do have to turn the face cam off and everything like this. Not that you care about seeing my face anyway, because when I stream this, it does seem to lag, or when I record this, it seems to lag on the overall camera. So let's get into it. Now, it's not as well organised as it would be on a deck builder one. Once I've had a chance to look through it and sort that out, I will start obviously doing this. Is one of my first profiles. Second, technically there is one that I haven't released yet from back in the other beta. Might throw that a bit later. But this is based on everything being reset, the card pool that I have, generally the time I've been playing. So I haven't thrown money at this game in any sort of large fashion. I had like the Green Arrow and Shazam, but otherwise everything is just through card pools as throughout playing the game. But we've opted for these two leaders here, Green Arrow and Aquaman. Now I've got Green Arrow and I was like, okay, I want to try him. And it seems interesting. It's like Batman, but obviously doesn't have the attack and aggression, which is the biggest difference between them. Whereas Batman gets free plays with his gadgets, but they've been nerfed because they were too overpowered, because they were free and doing very controlling. Whereas Green Arrows, you play and you have to pay the cost for them, but you generally get different, you get random ones, and they can be quite impressive. There's ones like if you deal 3 damage, for the first time using this will then go back to your hand and be free to use, so you technically do 6 damage to individual things. Or you'll have ones where do 6 damage to one thing and like 3 damage to adjacents, or charge your leader a couple of times. So it has a good variation of tools to use, and I'm a big fan of it. Now I tested this a few different times with different partners for Green Arrow, because I was trying to find an idea of how it would work. I did try the mono tactics with Batman and Green Arrow to go full out on gadgets and tactics on arrows. The lack of card pool, I think, was the part that was hurting it. Maybe if later down the line might be something that works, I will look to try again. But at this point, it just wasn't enough. You needed some defense for Green Arrow because he doesn't attack like Batman would, for instance. So I did try Wonder Woman. Again, I think it was card pool that's the problem. I think Wonder Woman would be a very good partner for Green Arrow, but I didn't really have a mass amount of good things to keep playing out alongside it, because her whole thing is you place them out and you can then buff it with her effect, give it, a +1, and then you can attack with her, which is great. But if you can't play a surplus of things out, it kind of doesn't do enough. I did try Shazam just because I had it. I won't try that again. I'm not entirely sure on my thoughts of Shazam at the moment. Not the biggest fan at this stage. I tried Green Lantern just for the all green. Again, I think Green Lantern's missing something. And finally ended up on Aquaman. Reason being, he summons sea creatures, so it gives me bodies on board for no cost. I'm not having to pay to get those out, because you pay for stuff with the Green Arrow's tricks shots. You don't always have the resource to keep playing surplus bodies, so that gets around it. And realistically, if you get Aquaman's MVP, the Seahorse, you start dealing a lot of damage to the board and controlling a lot of things. Aquaman's Seahorse is probably the most overpowered thing in this game. That's going to be my bottom line with it. I think that card is just so good. But yeah, we've opted for those. So let's get into the card side of things. So starting off, we don't want to want Tear Gas. I threw it there as a free to use card. I didn't go for the Battering because it's only 1 damage. Tear Gas that lets me lower the amount of threat that they're going to do to me. It's only there as a one I've said. This is based on the card pool I have, and I think it's generally one of the more useful ones to have at this point. The other one, if you do want to try it, and if you do want to go with it, is Grappling Gun. just because bouncing your Trevor back to hand and then charge your leader again is just great. We run 2 Thanagarian Mace. Gives our friendly recruit +2 and +1. It's a free cost card again. It's just helpful to keep things like your Felicity Cloak alive, keeps your buffs up your Diggle, when you keep getting actions to hand, buffs up some of your defensive line as much as you can. Even things like the sea creatures that Aquaman throws out, which do get buffs anyway from him, they do a lot of work. We do run the 1 Batarang. Honestly, you could just replace this out for a tear gas if you wanted, or just keep it in. It doesn't do any harm. It's never one I really rely on. It is literally just filling the card spaces for me. We're on Jimmy Olsen. I've tried to opt for some free cards as much as possible here. So in total we've got 5 there. Jimmy Olsen's just has shield 0-2. Doesn't do anything attacking wise to the board, but it can just be a nuisance to throw down and shield and just chump block 2 things. We have a 1 Wayne Tech Engineer. If it does manage to survive, it gives you a gadget in hand, which is nice because it's a free gadget. We will take those. It's a 1-3 body, so it's not the easiest to trade with early, because most things come out, they're like a 2-1, maybe a 2-3. They'll generally form around the 2 marker. So yeah, 1-3 is not too bad. Utility Belt, I like this card a lot because it's seek any gadget and draw a card. Obviously I know we're not playing Batman, but like I said, gadgets are free, and draw an additional card is massive. So if we can get a gadget, draw a card, have a trigger in hand, we can start to look to try and control the board a bit, because it could be a tear gas, and then your arrow just clear out 1 or 2 bodies if possible, and then you surplus that card. Crypto's a very good card. I think it's a must. Generally, given something else shield, he may only be a 1-1, but he has shield himself, so it takes 2 hits to get rid of him, or they have to chip him and then hit him. But if you put this on your Seahorse with Aquaman, it's just oppressive, because they want to get rid of that as soon as possible. They can't have Aquaman with a base 2 swinging every time and invincible. That's a lot to handle. So Crypto is 2 of. John Diggle, after you create our first action each turn, John Diggle gets +1/+1. Green Arrow creates actions, so this will get the +1. This is fine. Allows us to buff up a body. Again, we can try and use the Crypto to keep him alive a bit longer as well, whilst he's building up. And generally, they just want to they end up trying to deal with him as quick as possible. It's not even like he's the most oppressive card, but it is something that they want to deal with. Felicity Smoke. Now, deploy, charge your Green Arrow leader, which is great, gets us trick arrow on like turn 1 if we see it. Start, draw a card. I don't think I've ever got the start, draw a card off. They always seem to just target it, which it makes sense. Draw power is strong in this game, so we're fine. It takes off some aggro from us. If they want to get rid of this, that's fine. But yeah, just being able to deploy and charge the Green Arrow is nice. Anything that gets you charges quick is just a very good card, like Trevor himself. We run, we got the question, Hunter, draw a card. So Hunter can attack hidden characters, which is always nice, and then just draw a card, which is, like I said, draw power is very strong. I have it as in here. I only have the 1. Things. I'm assuming you can only have 1 by this icon here. I've never actually checked, but it's just a 1/1. Again, it's like Felicity. It's targetable because it transforms into a Superman, which is a 6/6 with invincible. No, with his shield, so not invincible, with his shield, which is massive for them to deal with. So you'll see them just trying to take this out as soon as possible. So if you get to actually get this to survive for a turn and transform into Superman, you have a lot of pressure very, very early. Run the 1 of Bluebird. Only have the 1, otherwise I would opt to have 2 here. I probably would take the Batarang out for this. Just creating a gadget is, like I said, it's a nice point, and it's a 2/3 body, so we can play some defensive as well. We run 2 Emissarium Minotaur, so 3/4 body bronze token. It's cheap, it's powerful, it requires multiple hits to get rid of, unless they throw down something like Warlord, which is 5/1, but even then you're still going to trade. So it's just generally a good card. Room 1 of arrest, bounce their hand. If they have something that's got a stupid amount of power, we're not going to have to take it out with trick arrows, or we're going to have to chum block or send multiple bodies in there to die. Arrest just helps us get around that, just as a one-off. The one of Arkham Guard, to point if there's any anarchy or tyranny leader, Arkham gets +1/+1. It is there just for the guard. If you do get the +1/+1, it's great, it's a 2/5, but realistically just there for the guard. Same principle as Superman Robot, but this is just generally the better version. It's 2/2, so it's not as beefy as Arkham Guard, but it does have shield, it does have guard. So technically with shield, it is a 4/4 realistically, so it's just a good card. Probably one of the best cards because it doesn't specify a leader, it just charge a friendly leader, so you can choose which one it goes to. And if you do have the grapnel gun and the facilities to play this again, you can double charge, which is just a great amount of tempo. So just one of the best bronze cards for me. Him and Crypto put in a lot of work. Nightmare Nurse, because we are trying to play somewhat defensive here, Nightmare Nurse just puts a lot of work in just to keep healing us back up. So even if they're not able to deal with our board because we have Aquaman sea creatures out, for instance, because if you get 1 or 2 of the whales, they're like 1/8 or something like that. You can just keep healing them back up, healing your leaders back up, and look to obviously win in the long run. This card is very targetable. A lot of people trying to take this out quickly, which is fine. Again, it's taking the pressure off our leaders and going for some of our little tools. Room 1 steel, silver. It has guard. It's 5/6. It's pretty decent body. It's usually going to take either 2 bodies to get rid of it, or 1 big one, and we'll either have to trade with that. So, we're okay with that. Speedy, very good card. Obviously plays into the whole trick arrow side of things. It does give us 1 in hand. It does have speed, so it can attack 10. It plays out. It's a 3/3, so it's got a good stat line to go with it. Queen Hippolyta, aura, so it can't be hit by an option for the first one. Then get rid of it, and then deploy. Give your other recruits +1/+1. I run this in here because sometimes if we do see some of our big bodies like the Minotaur or Steel, or we have some sea creatures out, we throw this down, or even having Nightmare Nurse out, throw this down and give everything a 1/1. So it just allows us to buff ourselves that a little bit more. Good stat line, right, so 4 or 5. So yeah, generally, and they have to either deal with it by hitting it, unless they use 2 options to get rid of it. Kind of running here is a 1-off. I originally had him as 2. Because I was like, okay, it's Green Arrow, it's got to be in there, right? I don't particularly think this card's amazing. I probably will swap this out once I get some more cards to hand. It's like, Connell gets +1 attack for each action in your hand, which is great if I store an action for a good while, but I don't always do that because you want to keep the board stemmed. So he's normally only getting a +1, maybe a +2, depending on where we're at. So yeah, just a 1-off. Bat Cycle, I only have the 1-off, but charge a friendly leader and give them evade, draw a card. We want to try and cycle Aquaman charging his thing as much as possible. Green Arrows charges on a 2 charge, whereas Aquaman is a 3, so you want to emphasize the Aquaman a bit more because he will give the bodies in front so we can stop taking needless damage. And it gives him evade as well, which is always nice. Otherwise, if you're in a bad situation, just put the evader on the Green Arrow, charge it, get a trick arrow, then pop some stuff. Room 2 Superboy has shield, it's 4/4 stat line, which is okay. So realistically, it's 8. It's going to be 8/8 overall because you've taken 2 bits of damage, unless they use an option first and then just swing into you. Going to the gold side gold cards itself, we run 2 Truth and Justice. I like this card. Obviously, it might change with more cards that I open up into, but give your characters +2/+2. Having your leaders have a base 2 damage is great because it means if anything's swinging into them, they're going to get damage back on them, and also means I can use them as a resource to attack every turn. So even if I don't have bodies in hand that can play out, I can get trick arrows from Green Arrow. I can look to try and control their board that way. I can use Aquaman's thing to bring out sea creatures, and then I can start swinging with my leaders into stuff to clear bodies out. So I think generally it's a very good card. And then Aquaman. This is the one you get from doing the comics. Aquaman has +2 for each of your sea creatures, so this can become quite a beastly body. It is very targetable, but the fact it's got a 9 defense means it takes a bit of effort to get rid of. And the start of turn, summon a sea creature. So if you do manage to get this to stick, and let's say you have an Aquaman charge, you can look to fill your board back up pretty easily. Overall, that is the deck. Performance-wise, I'd like to say I think it's about a 50% win rate on there. A few games I might disconnect things that I'm not going to consider those in there, and a few games I have just drawn bad. I do think with a bit more refinement and a bit more card pool, I think the deck can do well overall. Obviously, if you want an alternative to Aquaman, if you haven't pulled in, Wonder Woman I think would work depending on what kind of card you have with an archetype. But I still think some of these are quite easily transferable from there. But I do think this needs some better top end cards at this point. As you can see, I only run a minimal amount of gold cards at the moment. That's because I don't really have them that good. This is the breakdown for you all. So 21 bronze, 10 silver, 4 gold, so 4 gold, sorry, 5 black, and then overall we have 30 bodies and 10 actions. That's the deck. If you do like it, if you have given it a try yourself, or if you have any suggestions and input, by all means, drop me down a comment below. Don't forget to like, comment, and then hit that bell, just so you get notifications of when this content goes live for you. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe if you've got time. But overall, thanks for tuning in to Gordo's Games. Thank you for supporting the channel, and we look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Catch you next time.
you.